We got to change what we're doing. I think there is an urgency to what we're facing in politics that's unlike anything you or I have ever seen before. I think it's now or never. I don't think we've reached the point of no return yet, but we are close.
Prepare yourself, for this week it would seem the floodgates might begin to open on those who believe they are the chosen ones for the Republican Party in America. Ted Cruz working his way across the country, albeit very quietly here at the moment, and soon he'll be joined by the senator who still leaves plenty of people puzzled. So let's dig into the left and right of it all, shall we? First up, welcome to MidPoint, Republican strategist, professor of public policy, politics, and international affairs at Georgetown University, Bradley Blakeman. And joined by Democratic media strategist, former White House advanced staffer for Vice President Joe Biden, Franco Ripple. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Bradley, I'm going to start with you on this one because here we go from the Republican side. Rand Paul is very likely going to announce that tomorrow he will take his shot at the presidency. Is he electable, and is he, in your opinion, the most electable of the ones we assume will run?
Well, first of all, you have to be selected by the party before you're elected by the people. So the party actually will have the first cut at whether or not a nominee is going to be selected. I happen to think it's going to be a tough road for both Ted Cruz and for Rand Paul to seek the nomination. Because remember where the American people are. To be selected by the party, why would the party select somebody who's not electable by the people? And I think the best candidate for Republicans is one that's going to win an election. And that means they have to be just right of center, right where the American people are. And they're too far right, in my opinion, to move far enough to the middle to win an election. So yes, they're an important voice in our party, but are they going to get the nomination? I don't think so.
Professor, you hit right where I was going to go next. And hang on, Franco, because you're going to have a shot at this. But, Professor, you just said this. There are many people who feel that at this moment, whomever the Republican is to become president must come off the far right because they cannot be elected president. It is impossible if they hang too far out there on that far right branch. You agree with that, yes?
There's no doubt I agree with that. I think that the American people are going to decide who the next president is, not the people who nominate from the party.
Franco, I then throw it to you. Does the left then just salivate at the mere thought of having a Ted Cruz or a Rand Paul as the Republican candidate?
Ed, I think there's no doubt that, whoever the Democratic nominee is for president, whether it's Hillary Clinton or somebody else, would absolutely salivate the thought of running against two, relatively junior, unprepared senators to run for president with very, very extreme records. There's no doubt. But, this actually underscores a bigger problem. And I'm going to step off my partisan talking points for a second to talk about the fact that this is the primary system that we have in America. It's very unfortunate that the people who choose a nominee are the most likely voters in their party, and so it pushes both left and right. It pushes candidates to the fringes of their party, and it's a very unfortunate thing that we have in this country with that, and it would be nice to see candidates be able to maybe show a little bit more of who they are from the center throughout the entire process.
But how do you do that, though? Even Franco, I even sense that you're beginning to admit as well that in this current arena that we have, that is literally impossible for a candidate to do.
Absolutely, it is literally impossible because, as Bradley said, and as everyone knows, you have to win the nomination first. And to win the nomination, you have to win over the voters who are the most likely to show up in a low turnout primary election. And those are the hardcore voters of both the left and the right. And so I think when you see people like Ted Cruz appealing to the base, throwing out even more red meat than they already do for the general public, it's because those are the people that they have to win over. And so I think you'll actually see some people like Jeb Bush, who was a fairly moderate governor, and a more establishment candidate maybe struggle a little bit in Republican primaries.
All right, Franco, one more shot here. I'm going to let you got to get off the partisan bandwagon just a little bit here, and please be honest with me, because Democrats, the Jewish Democrats, have been going after the White House now for 2 years, saying back off on the rhetoric in Israel. There is now a real possibility that the Jewish Democrats are going to leave the Dems behind and move over to the Republicans. You have to admit that this is a concern.
Ed, unfortunately, I don't admit that at all, because here's the thing. What we're seeing is that there's this small cadre of actually right-leaning Jewish donors who are giving heavily to Republicans. More so, Lindsey Graham has tripled the amount of money he's received from Israel-aligned donors in the last couple of years. But you have to keep in mind, there are 6 million American Jews, many of which are registered to vote. They overwhelmingly support the Democratic Party.
At the moment.
For a long time.
At the moment, they overwhelmingly support.
There's no schism between Israel and the United States when it comes to political parties. Democrats and Republicans alike support Israel. What this is currently about is about the president's authority to negotiate and execute a solid Iran deal that prevents them from acquiring nuclear weapons.
Okay, let me then get it over to Bradley here, because I think the words I just heard, Bradley, from Franco were no schism here, but it would seem a lot of people would disagree with that wholeheartedly.
You bet. Look, I'm an endangered species. I'm a Republican Jew. And look, I can't understand how any Democrat who's a Jew can stay with that party when they've so disrespected Israel. Not only that, but made Israel more vulnerable to attack. Israel has never been in a more dangerous position than it has under this president. He's about to give Iran a free ride on developing a nuclear weapon. He's binding other presidents to an agreement that, if it's a Republican, will never be honored in its intent. It's going to be honored in the breach by Iran first, and then the next president is going to have to destroy that agreement, because the agreement is not going to be in the best interest of Israel.
But is there really going to be a groundswell? Is there really going to be a groundswell here, though, Professor? Because that's the thing. With so many Jewish Democrats in this country, you would have to have a massive turnover for them to really turn against the Democrats.
I happen to think this is ripe with the right Republican candidate to start peeling away crucial votes in key states, especially Florida, away from Democrats who are Jewish, who ordinarily would be knee-jerk reaction. That's gone.
All right, I only got about a minute left. I want to get both of your opinion on one other individual then. Professor Blakeman, I'm going to stick with you on this one. We talked about Rand Paul. We've talked about Ted Cruz. What about Marco Rubio? He's going to wind up getting in the race next week. And I will be honest, there are many people out there who think that young, good-looking guy, the Hispanic vote, that he's got a real chance.
Marco Rubio's got a great chance. And here's my dream ticket. Kasich as for president from Ohio, Rubio vice president for Florida, two battleground states. Two individuals who complement each other, who have great stories. Rubio is going to be a major factor once he announces.
All right, Franco, I throw it to you then. What about Marco Rubio again? Let's put it this way then, Franco. Would you still salivate as much, if indeed, 10 seconds, if Franco was in?
Ed, I would salivate for a different reason. It's because as a native Floridian, I've seen Marco Rubio govern here in this state, and I can tell you there are some skeletons in the closet that the National Press Corps would be just waiting to bring out.
There he is. Bradley Blakeman, Franco Ripple, thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate your time, and we'll do it again. MidPoint continues.